How's it going, lazy Bruce's up? I'm Sixkilla, welcome back to Sekimeiya. Now, first of all, I have to apologise if I look tired. It's because I am. Work is really running me ragged at the moment, but I'm committed to getting this game done, and it takes a certain amount of recording every day to get to that point, because we've been at this for like nearly 2 months now. But any small, minuscule evidence of my brain working before will sure as shit not be working now. So anyway, seem we're going to be being asked questions again every day. Let's pick. Katei was in the storeroom secret corridor. That's why he wasn't discovered when everyone was searching or whatever. It's probably wrong, but yeah. I don't think Katei could have been found either. Before we travelled to the future, we saw Sai in front of the cleaning room. I wasn't sure what Sai had been about to do, but we'd seen him standing in front of the door. Shiroi and I entered while Katei continued toward Hallway C in pursuit of him. When we travelled to the future, Katei was actually very close to us. He went half an hour forward, so I'm sure the range picked him up. Half an hour earlier, he, Shiroi and I had been in the attic, so that's where we appeared in the future. Katei had been in the rightmost bedroom. He suddenly teleported there and left the room, disoriented. He's who we heard approaching the door when we were in the hallway, and he's who left the newer footprints in the living room. After failing to find anyone, Editor, Arcado and Sai gave up and moved back to the lobby. There was only silence for a long time until they heard the sound from hallway A. It was Katei. He'd walked down after appearing in the bedroom, and Shiroi and I were about to fall asleep. Where did you go? We searched for you. Sai shot the first question, and an immediate answer came that left the three of them unsatisfied. I don't know. I think I experienced what Atsuki said, that teleportation. I've been searching for you. Then they looked into the cabinet where Isla had disappeared. She was there, already dead, and Sekimeiya, though, was still nowhere to be found. After they waited in the lobby again, Shiroi and I appeared. We told them that they hadn't found us because we'd been sleeping in the attic. We understood that what you've told us is that you two spent all the time in the attic sleeping. Despite this, you weren't found. You didn't find Katei either, so you obviously didn't do a great job. And you were in a rush, so you kept yelling Isla's name while quickly looking. I bet you didn't look in the upper levels of the bedrooms, which is where we were, and since we were asleep, we didn't hear you. This only made sense from our point of view, but Sai never denied it. Why? There's no way he really didn't look in the upper levels, is there? Perhaps that was the first indication he had that travelling to the future was possible, and he consciously chose not to let us know. Since he should have been in Hallway C when Katei disappeared, I wonder if he turned around and realised that's what happened to him too. In any case, when we went to see Isla with our own eyes, there was a major distinction. The Sekimeiya was there emitting a faint glow. What the hell happened? That Sekimeiya was working, and we had hidden the third one in Naomi's locker. How did that one appear back in the cabinet? I don't get it. I don't know what happened to Isla. Is there a whole other factor that I'm missing about this? Did something else occur that I don't know about? Isla disappeared from the cabinet, but how? Did she go to the future? The future Sekimeiya should have been powered off since we just used it. And then, even if it happened, did she reappear in that same cabinet? Where she'd gone to look? Why though? She wasn't there in the past, was she? And why did she die? Right, she yelled before falling in. What the hell does that mean? Did she go to the past? Before Sai kept walking toward Hallway A, perhaps he put the future Sekimeiya where he had the past one, for whatever reason. Since the future one should have been powered off, Isla would have actually travelled back in time and not changed worlds. I can't know if the search took long enough for it to power back on, though. But that still doesn't make sense, does it? If she saw herself, what happened to her other body? Why the hell was it even there? And if both Sekimeiya were active, she should have changed worlds. Also, I know Sai could only have put one in his hip pack, so the other one would have been seen. Most importantly, later the Sekimeiya reappeared in the cabinet. Did someone do this? Or was it all an accident that didn't involve a murder? I still think it was an accident, personally. Like, no one's got any incentive to kill Isla. It's possible someone killed her, but who? Who would have had a motive to do it? Who could have done that? There was a whole search, and the future Sekimeiya had just been used. It's possible a killer with an elaborate plan carried this out, but that seems very out of place. I don't believe she was killed. Her cause of death was one of the strangest details. It's tough, isn't it? What happened to Isla? Under the right circumstances, touching the Sekimeiya ended her life. It wasn't an instant result, however. The complexity of what occurred might be a bit more involved than what you're imagining. There's no world switches factored in. The cabinet, both Sekimeiya, Everyone's actions, everything contributed to allow Isla's tragic demise. This riddle will be left all to you, but know something. When Isla looked into the cabinet for the first time, she saw the body of a young girl. It was her own, but that was far from her interpretation. Inside the cabinet, she saw the image of her friend, her mind and body both seated on the edge, and she screamed as she toppled into that sarcophagus of a cabinet. If she wasn't killed though, I don't know what could have happened. There are too many aspects that I don't get. It was frustrating. I'd had the information to solve everything so far, but I was lost when it came to Isla's death. I wish I could know what happened to her. She died right there, and she never revived. The Isla in the future wasn't the same person. I looked at the voice recorder. The minutes had been ticking along, so I felt slightly rushed. I hated having to move on, but her death seemed to be surrounded by too many questions for me to solve. Afterward, we simply stayed in the lobby. Didn't look like any of us had the strength to stand again, but that changed when Katei and Sai left out of the blue. Both of them said that they went to the bathroom, but it's clear that's not what happened. When I thought about it, I realised I could draw a solid conclusion. The Sekimeiya that appeared next to Isla's dead body was working. Future Sekimeiya, right? I think it was the past Sekimeiya. Of course it was the opposite one. That's because I put it in the Sekimeiya cabinet, and when we locked ourselves in the attic, it was still there. We were told that Sai and Arcado escaped. Arcado forced Sai to tell him where he'd hidden one of the Sekimeiya. Then he touched it and appeared in January, meaning the one in the event room was the past Sekimeiya. And there is something strange about this. If I'm right, Sai must have hidden the future Sekimeiya immediately after Isla's disappearance. This means that when Arcado touched it, it had already gathered energy for a ridiculously long time. A lot more than what I believe he needed to travel 21 days. After Katei and Sai left the lobby, Shidoya and I came across the empty cabinet in room B4 that had been set to 0 degrees. That's what reset the stored time. I'm not sure what happened exactly. Maybe Katei found the Sekimeiya and put it somewhere cold. But Sai saw that and removed it. The cabinet would have taken a bit to cool off, but a few minutes had passed. After that, Shidoya discovered the storeroom's movable wall and the handle was door. At the time I was certain that secret place had been used by the culprit to escape the multiple searches we did. No? I don't think that was ever used by anyone who didn't want to be seen though. I saw a single set of fingerprints identical to the ones I saw this morning. Since the morning, no one had opened that door from the hallway. Katei had the rusty key, and it fits the keyhole of that door. He definitely knew of its existence. And immediately after that, Edina proposed that we confine ourselves. That's what led us to wait in the attic's bedroom, leaving the past Sekimeiya behind in the event room. That marked the halfway point of our imprisonment. From there though, everything only got crazier. Despite our efforts, Sai and Arcado managed to escape. I wouldn't be surprised if they left the way that I imagined it, with a thought-up loop. I attempted to replicate that idea, but it didn't work. At the time, I thought of a number of reasons that could have prevented my success, but now I can think of even more. First off, at some point Arcado travelled days into the future. It's possible that even the Isla from another world travelled days into the past. That means that if I'd walked to the crystal floor, maybe I would have been involved in one of those travels. Secondly, my idea was to leave, travel to the past, unlock the door and re-enter the bedroom immediately after my departure. That meant that my future location would have been in the bedroom, so I wouldn't have been able to appear outside it in the past. Lastly, my plan entailed using the Sekimeiya we had hidden in Naomi's locker. It was the third Sekimeiya, so I highly doubt it would have ever worked. After both of them left, an Arcado with different memories showed up. Even another Isla was there. What happened outside the bedroom? I only have Arcado's version. He touched the Sekimeiya Sai had hidden, and went to the Wait, what the fuck? This doesn't make any sense. More than 20 minutes had passed, so it was safe to step back into the kitchen. How did I not think this through? There's no way we went to January 5th. For that, we should have been in the tower 21 days before the 15th. Arcado's clothes changed. I can't rule out that he might have been in the tower in the past. Ours didn't change though. I certainly wasn't there in the past, so if I travelled 21 days to the future, I should have appeared far outside the tower. What the hell? That broke my entire train of thought. It was a major contradiction regarding what I concluded. What happened at the end of the day? 21 days before the 15th, that was November 24th. I was not in the tower at that time. I wonder what would have happened. What would happen if now I travel back in time to that day and go to the tower? I don't think that would explain it either. Needless to say, that won't happen. It would mean that Sai and Edina would have to be there as well. What the hell is this? How is it possible we travelled to January 5th? Is there another way? Could anything explain this? I thought about our last minutes in the tower, right before 9 o'clock. What exactly had caused the travel? One of the Sekimeiya was kept cold in the event room, which means that it was likely the past Sekimeiya. Then the future Sekimeiya must have been somewhere else, and it made us travel through time. But the replicated locations don't make any sense. I had to think about everything that happened during the last segment of that day. When I did, a possibility came to mind. Oh God! Come on, man. Oh man. Oh, I like this one. We were always on January 5th. It was January 5th from the very start. It seems unlikely, but I'm going to pick it because it's awesome. We were on December 15th. The cool Curator potion confirmed that. And then, given Isla's words in the evaporated water, I'm certain we arrived on January 5th. But by simply thinking about what happened during the last stretch, an obvious problem immediately comes up. We shouldn't have been able to travel 21 days through time. A bit after 8:30, we found the powered off Sekimeiya in the water tank and left it in the cold cabinet. Then we found Shiroya in hallway A crystal room. I don't know who she really was, but she convinced me to wait in the lobby for the shutter to open. Something I felt iffy about occurred there. Edina left, saying she was going to search for Sai. Later, when she came back, it sounded like she travelled through time. The Sekimeiya wasn't in the cabinet. I couldn't take it anymore. I felt like everyone was lying to me. I searched hallway A by myself and found a Sekimeiya in the security room. What's strange is that the Sekimeiya was very hot. It didn't make sense for Edina to have recently used it. That makes me think that it wasn't the same Sekimeiya that had just disappeared from the cabinet. After I found the Sekimeiya in the water tank, something about Sai also seemed off. We still haven't searched the whole floor. I'll go leave the Sekimeiya in the event room and we won't move it again. There's nothing else to find, is there? Do you seriously believe Shiroya will be there? We've already found the Sekimeiya. I stared at Sai's eyes, a little disconcerted. His voice sounded noticeably more nervous and tense than it had recently. Is there something else to find here? What would that be? He knew there was something left to be found, the Sekimeiya in the security room. He didn't care that we'd found one, but he was worried we'd find the second one. What's most important is that after I found it in the security room, I put it in the cabinet. A mere minutes later, we supposedly travelled to January 5th. This seems impossible. One Sekimeiya had just been taken out of the cabinet while the other one had just been left inside. There was no time to build up the necessary energy to travel 21 days through time. If the future Sekimeiya was put in a hot place during those minutes, it could have gathered enough energy. However, that wouldn't explain the replicated location. I wasn't in the tower on November 24th. In other words, there is an answer that explains both mysteries at once. Could it really be what I'm imagining? Before the exit unlocked, the future Sekimeiya was activated. I believe the location where that happened is a very important detail. Pass. Cleaning room. That's an interesting room. It was the mechanical room. That's where the future Sekimeiya was at 9 o'clock, and it was Edina who activated it. She was in the mechanical room when the lights went off. She still wanted to go to the past. She never stopped saying that. It was her last chance to do so. Before then, she must have used the Sekimeiya we'd left in the cabinet. However, when she came back to the lobby, she asked us the time. She had gone to the future instead, based on what happened later. That must have been the future Sekimeiya. Even so late in the day, Sai was still trying to keep the Sekimeiya hidden. He knew one was in the security room, and when Edina travelled to the future, it was his chance to take care of the other. Edina came back, asking for the time. This is when we went to the event room and saw the empty cabinet. I noticed the brief instant in which Edina's expression showed surprise. She was still in hallway B, staring at her left. Did you see something? Huh? I walked up to her, but I found nothing that stood out in the hallway. What she saw was Sai going through the mechanical room. That was where he left the future Sekimeiya. Or do we use these last minutes to find Sai in the Sekimeiya? And if this is his doing, he must have something in mind. And as much as I want to get out, I'm not fond of the idea of letting him do as he pleases. Yeah, maybe we should search for him. Search complete. You all did an amazing job this time. But that's not all. Before Editor noticed the mechanical room had been opened, that made me think Sai was down there and came out when we went to the event room. He knew I'd purposely left the cabinet unlocked. If he later hid the Sekimeiya in the mechanical room, he was probably scoping it out ahead of time. After that, Sai didn't waver as I looked through hallway A. He knew I would find one Sekimeiya, but not the one he just hidden. Once I put the Sekimeiya in the cabinet, all of us, including Shiroya, went back to the lobby and kept waiting where we'd seen before. Edina didn't speak once. She knew the Sekimeiya Sai had hidden was still under us, and she was waiting for it to gather energy. Before the exit unlocked, she disappeared from beside us. She went down to activate the Sekimeiya one final time. And she did. The ceiling in the mechanical room is very low, so the range encompassed us too, the people sitting right above it. Why did we go to January 5th though? If that was the case, the rain should have picked up everyone who'd been waiting outside the tower. Somehow Shidoya knew the travel would occur, and she ran away from us to avoid being involved. But why? Why 21 days into the future? At first glance, it seems Edena's activating the Sekimeiya would never result in that. However, I think I can tell what the answer is by simply running through what would have happened after she touched it. Sai frequently told us the current time, and Edena made us travel to the future. The Sekimeiya had gathered power for about 15 minutes. At that point, we already knew that would result in roughly 20 minutes travel. So, we travelled 20 minutes to the future. What would the locations have been? 20 minutes before the travel, Sai was in the mechanical room, while Edena and I were in the lobby, sitting in the same spot. What occurred relied on Sai's location upon appearing. By that point, I'd also learned that 15 minutes sword results in 5 minutes of Sekimeiya recovery phase. After Edena touched the Sekimeiya, it spent 5 minutes off and then gathered energy for 15 more minutes until we appeared. When we appeared, Sai was in the mechanical room, where he would hide the Sekimeiya, so the instant we appeared, he activated the game. I'm not sure how that happened fluidly, but I can think of a couple of things that make a lot of sense. Immediately, we went 20 more minutes into the future, and when we appeared, the Sekimeiya had gathered energy for another 15 minutes. At that time, the locations were from the time Edena had touched the Sekimeiya. In other words, she was in the mechanical room while Sai and I were in the lobby. So, we went 20 more minutes to the future. It's incredibly unlikely that the time matched up exactly and perfectly replicated the instant in which we had appeared 20 minutes before. However, it's possible that the location was what we defaulted to, as it was the closest location in which we existed. That's all I can really assume here. Again, when we appeared, it was Edena who instantly reactivated the Sekimeiya. This created a never-ending chain of 20 minutes jumping forward. Only 2 locations alternate, the one in which Sai was in the mechanical room, and the one in which Edena was. Meanwhile, I was in the lobby regardless. This explains why I didn't see the sudden, instant flashing they talked about. For some reason, on January 5th, the tower was empty. Katei told us once that the lights turn off every night and are manually turned on in the morning, so if nobody was in the tower in the morning, the lights would have remained off. However, before all the lights turned out permanently, every 20 minutes, Sai and Edena alternated between being in the lobby and in the mechanical room. Although it lasted an instant each time, due to the darkness in the mechanical room and the light in the lobby, they perceived a flashing light. Then on January 5th, the chain stopped. I don't know why, but we broke free of it, effectively travelling 21 days to the future. And the final location was from when Edena was in the mechanical room, which is why it didn't feel like we changed places, and since in the previous location she would have appeared and activated the Sekimeiya instantly, that must mean that it overlapped with part of her body upon arriving. That must be why when the chain ended she started bleeding. The tip of her finger was missing. Did all that really happen and none of us realised it? It explained a lot of things, but I still had a few doubts. Why had the tower been empty on January 5th? Why had the chain not gone on infinitely? That must mean that Akira was really in the tower on November 24th. His hair was longer and a different colour. He travelled to the future while we were in the attic, but there was something I'm confused about. If I'm right, and the version of Isla who was there ended up being the friend she likely travelled before we left the bedroom. We weren't there for too long of a time though, and we left the past Sekimeiya in the cabinet. Akira travelled to the future after he and Sai escaped, but since Isla was still there, she must have travelled to the past afterward. Would there have been enough time to store the needed energy to go so far back? The reason she was able to go so many days back was, oh man, don't ask me. World Switch. That's wrong, it was due to the bid sheet that the World C group had obtained in World A. When it was brought to World B, they wrapped it around the past Sekimeiya and World Switch back to World C. However, the sheet remained around Sekimeiya and World B. Well, duh, obviously. Obvious. When it powered back on, the sheet was still very hot. That's why it took a short time to reach the needed amount of energy. When Akira and Sai escaped from the bedroom, Sai was forced to reveal the location of the future Sekimeiya was immediately knocked out. Isla A was there and heard it all as well. Worried, she tried to get a response from the unconscious Sai, which only one person heard from the bedroom. Giving up, she went down in an attempt to prevent Akira from damaging the Sekimeiya. She found it powered off in one of the hallway B crystal rooms. Akira was already gone. She knew the event room cabinet was equipped with temperature regulation, so she carried it there. But after that, on the floor of hallway A, she found a sheet covering yet another Sekimeiya. Confused, she felt its surface instantly vanishing from that place with the sheet. Immediately, she found herself on November 24th. Someone else disappeared as well, Akira A. The bedroom where everyone stayed was directly above the event room, so the range breached him. From a locked bedroom, he appeared in an unlocked prison cell. That was when a policeman outside the building suddenly appeared 21 days in the past. Sai woke up, he was near the elevator, so Isla's travel had missed him, and the people in the upper level of the bedroom. Disoriented, he walked to the event room and found out that the others had left both Sekimeiya behind for him. He still had to complete his plan. To get out of the bedroom, he had to travel to the past. Once he was done, Sai had both Sekimeiya for himself. Eager to resolve the doubts he brought them both to a room, B6. Unfortunately for him, he was only able to resolve his two major concerns before the world around him changed. When we left the bedroom, we quickly found out that the third Sekimeiya had disappeared from Naomi's locker. Who the hell did that? There's no way it teleported out. Did anyone else have a key after all? Who took the fake Sekimeiya? I don't know. I don't know anything. Come on. Yes, it was Katei. You might remember he wheel switched while he was in the staff room, and he had Naomi A's keys. While he waited in room B4, he wondered if he had access to that locker, and when he went to confirm it, he saw someone had hidden the Sekimeiya there. More than confused, he took it out with no comprehension that he was no longer in his world. I wonder who it was. Maybe Sai somehow? After that, Shidoi and I found a Sekimeiya on the floor of a hallway B room, B6. Future? When we touched, I'm pretty sure we went to the future. We appeared where we'd been 10 minutes before, so we went 10 minutes to the future. We thought we'd gone to the very recent past because the footprints we'd just left looked recent. Since we went shortly to the future, that didn't change. And then we concluded we'd gone 5 minutes to the past because we thought we'd taken the elevator and caused the trip we'd heard before travelling. This means someone else used it from the attic after we left the bedroom. On the crystal floor, we went to the lobby because our past selves hadn't gone there. Who'd be here then if not ourselves? There was someone moving through the hallways. We had heard an indistinct sound coming from hallway A made by a door. That's us. We just entered the event room. We waited, and seconds later the sound came from hallway B, unmistakably a closing door had created. Sai. Just a guess. There aren't many people I can think of. Sai, Edina, Katei, and maybe the other Shidoi. That's many considering how many people are here, but given the movements, I might know who it was. And that, Shidoi, how the hell did she get there? Was she the Shidoi from this morning? Did she appear in the attic with Naomi and spend the whole day in the tower? It can't be. We would have seen it. And what the hell was her deal with their clothes, or anything that she said? She was the same Shidoi I'd been with. She remembered what we'd done. That's all I get. When we returned to room B6, the Sekimeiya we'd used wasn't there. Since we'd gone to the future, someone had time to take it away. Instead though, we found one in a cabinet drawer. It was very hot, so it must have been there for a long time. But we decided not to activate it and brought it to its cabinet. That was when we found Katei dead in the security room. Who killed Katei V? I don't fucking know. Sai, probably. Or Katei C. When Katei walked out of the bedroom, Edina followed close behind. She didn't believe Atsuki and Shidoi had killed Issa. Sai and Akito had been with her the entire time. However, Katei had been missing during that time, and he hadn't explained himself. She didn't trust him at all. He'd been lying all day. He'd faked going to the bathroom to take advantage of Isla's death. On the lowest floor, when Edina uttered his name and turned around slowly, a single question was asked. Where were you when we couldn't find you? Katei realised the meaning behind it. Edina suspected him of causing Isla's death. He sighed quietly and then spoke. I don't know exactly. When I was walking behind Sai, I suddenly appeared in the attic. What? It's the truth. It likely happened when Shidoi and Atsuki touched the Sekimeiya, remember? Why didn't you say this before? And that doesn't tell me anything. Why didn't we find you? Katei stared into Edina's eyes. Her voice had never sounded so harsh. I said I experienced the teleportation. I'm telling you the truth. I was very confused when I appeared there. When I came down, the three of you were in the lobby. Although Edina wavered, she quickly dismissed Katei's claims as nonsense. You're not even making sense. You were hiding in the storeroom, weren't you? What? No, there are cameras in Hallway C. What I'm saying will be proven. I don't believe it. The cameras aren't recording. Yes, they are. Don't you see the light? Katei saw nothing but hostility in Edina's face, enough to appear as a threat. Did she really think that he'd killed Isla? He didn't know anything about what had happened to her, but there was a way that he could prove his innocence. He still haven't explained anything. Why didn't you say this earlier? And why didn't we find you? Edina had no idea what to believe. No one else could have harmed Isla. But who would have? Why would anyone have gone... Why would anyone have done that to her daughter? Part of her wanted to abandon everything, to just stop thinking altogether, placidly waiting the month it would have taken her daughter to return. I'm not lying. Maybe I can prove myself. Katei started walking to the security room, gesturing at Edina to come with him. It's been a long time since I've checked. Perhaps the security system is working again, just like what happened with the computer. He's the one who broke the computer though. In silence, Katei kneeled under the desk while Edna watched expectantly. Again, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with this. When he stood up, he nonchalantly took a rusty key out of his pocket and left it in the drawer. This time I won't forget to keep it somewhere safer. Katei sat on his chair and started up the 3 systems. As Edna stepped forward, he pressed the archive footage button. Oh, it's working. A list of cameras appeared on the screen. Edna read them without so much as a twitch. Look, I'll show you I was telling the truth. When Katei selected one, a video of Hallway C came up, mainly focusing on the bathrooms. Frustrated, Katei used the time bar to skip ahead. Here, I'm about to disappear. Coming from Hallway B, Sai stepped into Hallway C. Katei followed behind and out of nowhere his body vanished. See? That's when I appeared in the attic. After he selected another camera and fast forwarded further, Katei appeared from the 2nd floor and entered Hallway A. Just like I said, I wasn't here when she disappeared. I have no idea what happened to her, but I didn't lie. Did you kill Naomi? Huh? Of course I didn't. Show me what happened. After a brief pause, Katei moved the cursor to a different camera. He was calm. He knew very little incriminating footage was located in these folders. When he clicked on the room's B floor's camera, a message appeared on the screen. 10:04, cameras disabled and associated footage erased. What? The killer erased it? How? 10:04, isn't that when we left you here? Huh? It might be, but why does that matter? The system wasn't working for me at the time. You killed Naomi, right? I mean, he did. Katei hung his head. He failed to remember the deletion time would be displayed. I would never kill a person. You did. And not only Naomi, right? You're wrong. I promise I didn't do anything. Katei's excuses were poor. He wasn't trying anymore. Even if he convinced Edna that he was done for, as the deletion time pointed straight at him. His mind was someplace else entirely. He couldn't let that message be seen. He'd already ended someone's life for his own sake. If he was quick, he could get himself out of there. And there were many more suspects than the first time. Katei turned around, ready to deliver a sudden blow, but he didn't expect the one that came first. After a sharp collapse, Katei's body was on the floor, splashed with its own blood. Next to him was Edna. Katei's fist had contacted her head, and she'd also fallen on top of the blood. That's why she was knocked out. Only one of them was alive. Edna suddenly awakened and saw Katei's blurry outline. She'd killed him. She remembered what had happened, however she could hardly keep herself steady. She was unable to tell how much time had passed. The seconds had suddenly cut off for her, but she had to get out of there. Once she was able to stand, she walked to the door. She couldn't see anyone in the hallway, but at the end was a bright blob. Suddenly, she felt the need to go somewhere. She approached the event room. Inside, a single drop of Katei's blood dripped off her. Paying it no mind, she slowly walked out through the other door. She walked in a straight line, then, beyond a door, she saw a body beneath a curtain. She had avenged her. Now we could at least rest in peace. Someone closed the door behind her, but she didn't hear it. Only 2 other people did, and they mistook it as their own action. I think I can imagine what happened. When we found Edna's body, she was still alive, and after we were in the event room for a while, the other Shiroya woke me up. Why the hell was she there? And why did we not find her before? Did she avoid the searches with the Sekimeiya, knowing all of them were coming? She really must have been the Shiroya that disappeared with Naomi. But we couldn't find her, but suddenly Sai attacked us. I didn't get that either. Why do you want to kill us? And where did you get that knife from? I thought you'd overstepped, but it seems I was the one who had. What the fuck did that even mean? Before that point, he seemed to slow down when it became clear that I didn't know why he was chasing us. He snapped out of it suddenly though. When he saw Atsuki hadn't cried? About Shiroya's death? Maybe that one? He looked pensive out of nowhere and glanced around the room. Suddenly, in visible shock, his whole body went one step backward. Sai suddenly saw the security camera behind Atsuki. Earlier, Sai had experienced the first world switch. It was Atsuki A who he'd thought he'd been chasing. He realised Atsuki B didn't seem to know what had occurred, and that he hadn't cried. But it was the camera's green light that stopped him, as otherwise it would have been possible for that Atsuki to be a future vision of the one who had punched him. In World A, Sai had noticed the green lights were gone. The camera hadn't been recording. When he unknowingly returned to World B, he even saw the message on the computer that matched with the lack of green lights. However, when he saw the green light again, he understood he'd been recorded chasing behind Atsuki and Shiroya with a knife. If he killed them, he'd be the culprit. Sai didn't believe that footage would see the light of day, but he couldn't risk his own life. As a result, he abandoned all intentions to use his knife as soon as the green light entered his eyes. Sai began to think about what he'd experienced. The Sekimeiya disappeared from room B6, where Atsuki and Shiroya had found one. They hadn't known yet the 2 existed. They thought the Sekimeiya teleported to a drawer, meaning they might have missed that the future Sekimeiya was still in that room. After Sai wasn't found in hallway B, since Atsuki had just looked through every room in the hallway and hadn't found it, Sai thought he could simply go 20 minutes back and obtain it before Atsuki's inspection, like he planned before dashing out of the event room. But what had he experienced? Where was the Atsuki who'd been crying in the attic? Sai had seen a dead body in the lobby near a pool of blood, Shidoya's. Why was it not there anymore? Why had the pool of blood diminished? He didn't know, but he'd seen Shidoya dead. Her fate had to be death. But Sai couldn't explain the body's disappearance yet. She would end up dead. Someone would kill Shidoya. Sai just had to work out the structure of the events. He ran away to managed to hide in hallway B. And I'm not sure what he did, but when he unlocked the cabinet, we spoke to him for a while. He was pretty confident that Shidoya would die and that the blood in the lobby was his. And that's when he and Shidoya disappeared from the event room. I also said that what my plan relies on, I must go back to the past, but I don't need to go too far. If I had another Sekimeiya hidden, what would be the point of using this one be? I would just go back to the past with the other one I have, right? This is an actual question. If, as you say, I know where another Sekimeiya is, why would I not simply use that one? Because it would have sent him to the future. He wanted to go to the past and he knew the Sekimeiya in the cabinet was the past one. When he touched it, he and Shidoya appeared in the attic, which was inaccessible for me. I'm not sure what happened there, but Shidoya told me Sai locked her in the bedroom. On the crystal floor, I was able to open another locker. Why did I find his key in the cleaning room? And why didn't I find it before that point? It should have been noticed plenty of times when people were looking for the Sekimeiya. He might have realised that Akito always went out of his way to look around that room before the card disappeared. From the staff room, I used the Sekimeiya and appeared 20 minutes in the past. In the event room, I used the time to search through the upper floors, but I locked myself out of the attic. I ended up in the security room without finding anyone, but Edina must have been somewhere, likely with Mia. Many questions were eclipsed by a much bigger one, the note that I'd found on the floor of the staff room. I touched the Sekimeiya and went 20 minutes to the past. Then, when I returned to the staff room, I found that note. It's very likely it fell from my pocket when I sat on the floor. I never wrote it. What the fuck was it doing in my pocket? I don't believe anyone else left it on the floor. Wait, no, that doesn't even make sense. Nobody could have put it in my pocket, so what I must assume is that I appeared with it when I travelled to the past. From the staff room, I travelled and appeared in the event room. That makes sense. 40 minutes later, we were all there when Edina was about to activate the Sekimeiya. Oh right, I forgot about this too. Still with her groggy voice, she traced my gaze up through her purse and took out a small piece of paper. I found this just now. I tried to read it, but my head hurt a lot. Do you know what it is? She handed it to me and I snatched it away, gripping it tightly. My hands started trembling as soon as I glanced at the words again and saw those familiar letters. Edina had found the note I'd thrown away. When I took it, I immediately put it in my pocket so that the others wouldn't see it. That's why I appeared with it in the event room 40 minutes earlier. However, this is ridiculous. Where's its origin? I appeared with it and threw it away, then Edina found it and gave it to me. Which is why I appeared with it. It doesn't have a beginning. That means that I must have something back, but otherwise it doesn't make any sense. Alright, we need to wrap this one up here because we're out of time for this episode. I don't know how many more quiz episodes we're going to be having, but we must be getting close to the end now, right? We must be. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one.